Cash Color Cannabis, a higher level of conversation on LivehiphopDaily.tv. I finally got my guest in the building, my man Franz Carrazana. Franz, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, and yourself?
I'm doing well, man. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yeah.
That's good. I was kind of practicing that, like which one. Make sure I'm saying that right, man. But I had a chance to meet you a little while ago, and I'm gonna shout out to my good friend Tay, who is not here tonight. But I met you at an event that was recent, that was down the street, and I was enamored by your story the minute you started telling me it. I mean, you had me drawn in right when you said Georgia Tech. Because I was like, Georgia Tech is doing what?
Yeah, that usually does it.
Georgia Tech was doing what? But TheraSolv is your company, and I do want to speak to you. I brought you on the air to speak to you about that, Georgia Tech's connections and what you're learning as far as between your own personal health and customers, what you're learning about making the best products. So let's get to the first question, man. Who are you?
Well, my name is Franz Carrazana. At this point, I'm a fourth year at Georgia Tech. I am an undergrad still. I'm studying chemical and biomolecular engineering, and I'm biotech options. So I basically learn about chemistry and how to produce different final products through different chemical reactions and how to make that very large scale and profitable for large corporations. And my biotech option means that instead of doing that for oil, I'm going to do that with something biology based. And for me, it just happens to be cannabis.
Now, when you first got to Georgia Tech, did you know you was going to turn your work to cannabis? Like, was that a first thought in your mind?
I wanted to be a biomedical engineer and work on sensory feedback to amputees, like through prosthetics. Because my mom.
Jesus, how did your mind work? Like to even say something like that out loud, you know what I mean? Like, but go ahead.
It was kind of so the reason I wanted to do that was because my mother, she almost lost both of her legs in a car accident when we first moved to the country.
Yeah.
And seeing her struggle and the doctor say she was going to be amputee, and then her saying no, and then fighting to regain the use of her legs, like. As a single parent, I was like, wow, if you weren't that strong or if you had any worse injuries, how would you have supported me just coming to a new country, you know? Yeah. So I really wanted to work on, I've always liked the idea of making stuff super affordable, and I always kind of wanted to work in some sort of healthcare field. So that's kind of where the BME stemmed from. But then, strangely enough, I changed to chemical engineering because BME just felt too broad. It felt like the only way you could do anything is like you had to become have a doctorate in it to like make any good money. So I switched to chemical engineering because I thought it was more chemistry based and I could still potentially work for a company that did prosthetics but in a different capacity. And then I was just trying to find an internship or anything to do, and I was volunteering at this bike co-op on Georgia Tech called Starter Bikes. And then these two individuals who later on became, one of them became my PI for my research. Dr. Kubanik was the head researcher, but I worked really closely with Dr. Serge, who I met at that bike place. He's an analytical chemist, and he was working with a red algae at Georgia Tech, just identifying any chemicals found in it that could be used for medicines, or any bioactive compounds. So he took me on as one of his undergrad researchers. I basically sat in front of a machine called a high HPLC machine, or a high pressure liquid chromatography machine. Yeah. And it's just fancy for applying pressure and different liquids to separate stuff out. We took parts of the algae, put it through this machine. I caught stuff. We took that to a lab downstairs. Serge did his magic. And then they told me I discovered 2 new bioactive compounds, and they wanted me to be part of this research paper. So it was literally, that was like from first year to that was, second year, first semester, oh, you got a paper published. I was like, oh, or you're in a paper. So that was cool. And then during the same time period, I was attending an extra class that I wasn't signed up for, but just to be a better student. And
I take that laugh back. Be a better student.
It's the dichotomy's funny because of how little I study now. But so I met this professor called Pete Ludovis. He eventually notified me he was doing a cannabis research group. Yeah. And I told him about the previous work I did, and at the time I was trying to get an internship with this other company, and that fell through concerning CBD and cannabis, and he needed an analytical chemist to work on CBD stuff. He just wanted a group of chemical engineers to start talking about CBD and cannabis and see what the options were. And I guess my whole role was initially to just work up a theoretical reaction scheme to convert THC to CBD and vice versa. And after that, I started understanding more about CO2 extractions and supercritical fluids. And then there was another guy on the team working on modeling the CB1 and CB2 protein receptor, like in your endocannabinoid system on a computer. So I started learning about how THC. I always smoked weed since I was like 12.
Yo, y'all should see my face right now. I am fascinated right now. Like, damn, like all this is going into, and this is at Georgia Tech. This is happening at Georgia Tech in real time right now.
So the initial research with Pete Ludovic started about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. I assume he's still currently doing cannabis work. He's a really, really very, very smart individual. The last time that I formally worked with him was, I think, a semester and a half ago or semester ago. We had he basically allowed me to analyze one of our extracts as a standard in one of his reports to basically see how pure different samples of extracts of CBD are out there on the market. Yeah. So it was pretty cool that through that process, I got him to test some of our, extracts, and then get one of my classmates to actually write a research report about it.
When we say test, do you mean like actually use or like what?
So they because
I'm trying to picture a professor dabbing at Georgia Tech.
No,
at this moment.
I mean tests like taking the CO2 extract or the wax or the distillate or whatever you want to call it, and then mixing that with alcohol or a different solvent, and then putting it in a mass spectroscopy machine or a mass spec. Which basically allows you to analyze what's in it, and then that tells you the purity contents after you do other analytical techniques. So it basically just showed me that my stuff was pretty clean.
That's what I was saying. So you're the clean plug. So you the guy to tell you whether or not your stuff is actually pure or not. That's what's up.
I mean, at least I know where. I don't know about if I can tell if your stuff is, but I know where my stuff comes from, and I fly out there and I meet a very good geneticist, and I work with him specifically because I know he genuinely cares about what he's doing beyond the money. And that's why I love him so much, and he's awesome.
That's solid, man. So I was going to get into, you briefly mentioned that you have been smoking yourself for a long time. I was going to ask, so you have prior to your research. You actually have tried the plant.
Yeah, so I've actually, the first time I smoked cannabis, like high THC cannabis, I was about 12 years old. By that time, I'd already been using Ritalin and Concerta, like prescribed, for about 6 years.
But you're not from Georgia, are you?
So I was born in Miami. We went back to El Salvador. Then we came to, I forget, somewhere in Georgia. We got into a car accident when I was like 2 or 3. I was sent back home to El Salvador, and then I know I started like elementary and like middle school for sure in Gwinnett County, but like before that, like it was before 2nd grade, it was pretty much a lot of places.
Okay, so you was able to smoke high quality weed though at wherever you was at.
Not really. I mean, so I had I have a step brother, and he introduced cannabis to me, and never thought I'd be so thankful for that, to be honest. I definitely looked at it like it's the devil's lettuce, going to church and like hearing about weed. And
the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, but after the first time I used it, I kind of just wanted to fit in with my brother and his friends. But then I realized that I felt better than when I was taking the medicine that the doctor was prescribing me for my ADHD. I felt clearer-minded. I felt not the same anxiety. I didn't feel the same dissociative effects as when you're on amphetamines. And like at the age of 12, I wasn't able to articulate that, but I could definitely feel, hey, I like this. So like I kept on smoking cannabis, and I feel like I did it relatively responsibly. I went to a good high school. I got to a good college.
Clearly, you're a thumbs up for stoners. Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah, you definitely are that. So that's what's up. So you've been consuming fairly early in your life, and by the time now you're at Georgia Tech, you learned a whole lot more, obviously, about THC and
there's hundreds of cannabinoids that we know of, and there's hundreds of other theoretical ones that we haven't even discovered. But with like more crossbreeding of plants, hopefully we will get to. So THC and CBD are just amazing. Like they're amazing. They're just flat out like the easiest ones to talk about, but they're amazing. I don't know if you want me to start.
I love that. Actually, I was going to ask, and we're going to get you on a tangent about that in a minute. But I was going to ask about, again, doing the stuff at Georgia Tech. Was it initially when the research started and the work started? Was Georgia Tech kind of open arms with it, or were they kind of standoffish, like this is something that happens in the basement?
So the way that we have this research classified, you can Google it right now, is plant alkaloid isomerization.
Word.
So it's fancy for plant molecule stuff.
It's not said cannabis research.
No, it's definitely dressed up a bit, but okay. I feel like most kind of institution of that magnitude, are going to be dressed up. to the highest scientific degree. But at the end of the day, it was just basically a research group where we sat and we tried to figure out different ways of being the most efficient, because we're chemical engineers. So our whole thing is figuring out how to extract stuff, or figuring out how to use different reaction schemes to produce stuff, and then bringing that to market as efficiently and as cheap as possible. Yeah. So Pete's personal reason why he wanted to do this is because he's a diver. He actually just got his master's PADI certification, but he suffers from seasickness, and he was taking a bunch of I don't think it was Dramamine. It was some other seasickness pill, and he's like, I wonder if I can use CBD as a substitute for my seasickness. And that's how he initially started the group.
I like people who think like that.
Yeah. And it was basically again, we wanted to figure out, first thing, can we synthesize this? Is it a smart thing to synthesize? No, it's not. There's too race mixtures. There's too much side reactions. There's just too much other stuff. Then the next thing was, can we convert CBD to THC and THC to CBD? Yeah, we can. Is it efficient enough to where it's profitable? No, it's not. And then so the next thing is, okay, cool. So that means that we should take the plant material and extract from it. What's really efficient ways of doing? Well, everyone's done alcohol extractions, Rick Simpson oils. People are messing around with butane and propane, but why are people doing butane and propane extraction? That's dirty, that's gross. So then my professor thought about supercritical CO2 extractions. And then from that, one of the two other individuals in that research group were tasked with simulating how CO2 in a supercritical state would interact with cannabinoids and see if that was a viable way of extracting. And I love it. I think it's great. I think it's one of the better ways. It's one of the purest ways. You get definitely a lower yield. But my whole thing is reusing and reducing the amount of waste that we produce while making affordable products for people. So with CO2 extraction, it definitely lends itself to being able to use that waste material for something else. So what I want to do is make particle board or paper or something else with plant material that I already extracted using carbon dioxide, which is a very clean method.
That's what's up. So you plan on using the total thing? There's not going to be anything thrown away?
I still have buckets of hemp and vegetable glycerin from a year and a half ago that we have people now who are making facial scrubs that are using that hemp plant material that still has CBD in it for soaps and body washes and a lot of other things.
Yo, that is so amazing. And again, what blew my mind when I first met you that night was when you was telling me all this was happening at Georgia Tech. And I was like, that's so crazy, because really that's more incentive I would feel for Georgia to want to push more for him.
For sure.
You would think that would be it. We're really
we have some of the smartest minds and some of definitely the most capable chemists and scientists and material engineers at Georgia Tech, and I would love for them to get more on board on trying to just figure out how to make thermoplastics and textiles and different
out of hemp.
Out of hemp. There's just the current textile industry that's mainly sustained by, I don't want to say mainly, but the majority of the textiles that we use is cotton. And the ways that we currently cultivate cotton are very draining and depleting of the nutrients in the soil. And we could just oust that with using hemp fibers. It's just little thing, or why are we cutting down trees when we can grow hemp?
Boom.
For paper.
Boom.
That grows
boom.
Way faster.
Boom.
And there's a bunch of different things that if you just look at and you look at the technology that hemp can provide and the little amount of resources needed to grow hemp that you don't need for medicine but you need for constructing stuff, it's just why are we wasting all of our energy and everything else? It's almost like a logical flaw that the world is just blind to right now.
Well, the way you're moving, you're going to be able to at least you're gonna help cure one of those things.
I hope so.
I can already see it, bro.
At least if I can't do it directly, I want to definitely start someone else in the right direction or be a part of something moving in that direction.
Good. Let's talk about TheraSolv. So the TheraSolv, speak to us about some of the products you already have rolled out. I know I was reading some of the reviews, and I read one about some of the stuff you have for pets, and I was like, man, that's gushing. You know what I'm saying?
The beauty about so our main product line is the first one we came up with was with CBD coconut oil that we would use to make Rice Krispies. It was just the easiest, fastest, simplest extraction method we could do, and it made product the quickest. So we have our CBD Rice Krispies, which I love. In terms, sugar obviously is not good for inflammation, but in terms of someone who suffers from anxiety and may need a nostalgic childhood food and need some CBD that also reduces that anxiety, that CBD Rice Krispie is definitely a good option, and I think it's delicious. Then the next thing we made was our tincture, which is basically an alcohol extract on the plant material, and our alcohol we use is vegetable glycerin. So I basically just take vegetable glycerin and put it in contact with hemp for about 3 to 5 months, put specific pressure and temperature gradients on it. Then I filter out the hemp plant material, and then I literally bottle that liquid and I sell it. It's straight from the plant. My whole thing is get as close to the source with as little steps in between to reduce contamination risks and just keep it as intact as it is from the plant as possible. We also have a CBD chapstick, which CBD is also a natural antimicrobial and antibacterial, so it'll help with like bumps and acne, or if you have cold sores, it's really, really good for reducing those, and it's really good at just keeping your lips moist. I have a salve, which is basically CBD coconut oil, shea butter, beeswax, vitamin E oil, peppermint, a little bit of arnica, and a little special terpene that helps with pain. And that is great, obviously, for your joints. It's great for burns. We have individuals who have had hair loss, putting it on their scalp just for massaging it and have grown back their hair. I don't know if there's a
don't say that. Don't say that too loud. Don't say that, buddy.
I've had individuals who have severe uterine issues, even insert it into their vaginal area and have a massive reduction in pain when they're on opiates to try and combat the same pain. So it's honestly, the salve is pretty interesting. It's cool. I have people who are trying to use it in different ways, everywhere from people locticians to chiropractors to just people who do massages. Like everyone is just using it in weird ways I never imagined.
Why I can see a loctician using that, because that's painful. Even trying to lock somebody's hair up.
Blood flow, and it just makes it not hurt as much.
That's what's up, man. Yo, bro, I'm so proud of you, man. I'm hella proud of you. Like you're really on the cusp of breaking through with some major stuff.
I try to be. I wanted to make stuff for myself, and then I'm glad I can help other people. Really.
Yeah. How important is it for you to actually turn a profit, though? We do live in a capitalist society.
Being honest with you, I'm negative 77,000 this year.
You told me that also as well, and I like how you proudly say that. It's like a badge of honor. I do a lot of odd jobs. I help my friends fix up cars. I'll walk dogs, and all that money. I've also worked at restaurants, and all the money that I've saved up from the age of 14 or 15 that I've hidden from everyone, including my parents, I'm now funneling into my company. We're almost depleted, I love that.
But at the same time, we're almost turning up a legit profit this year. Thankfully, we're breaking even, and I'm able to pay the people who last year I wasn't able to pay at all, and they're working for free because they care about the product. So I'm really happy that I've been able to start taking care of the people who helped me out so much, and that I can just make a good, affordable product. In the long term, my money's going to come from, again, textiles, thermoplastics, biofuels, maybe even licensing some ideas out to bigger companies.
And I was going to say that too. Have you ever? Is it out of your realm to think about taking your talents to another company, or like you say, licensing the knowledge you already have that you're learning from Georgia Tech to another company who clearly doesn't have it?
So I tried doing it with this one company, and it didn't work. That was the initial. There was another CBD company in Atlanta, in Georgia, that I was trying to work with, and that there was a business major from UGA, and I forget what his other two partners were from, but it just was not a good match. It ended up being that I honestly feel like one individual took some of my ideas, ran with them, and then they ended up getting shut down a year later, which was kind of funny. Funny in the ironic sense. You know what I mean? But yeah, because I was almost not about to sign up for class because they were like, oh, we'll help you pay for a car, we'll give you employment. They were about to put me up as a second year. You know what I mean? And then I was like, okay, cool. I got a co-op. I'm excited. I get to work for this company, and then that fell through, and all these research opportunities popped up, and then my professor really pushed me to start the company. Actually, I've had multiple professors and at least one college advisor at Tech say you should just focus on the company for right now and then come back to school. And then the prime example that they give me is that there's Christopher Klaus, who donated one of the largest computer science buildings at Tech. He never graduated. At least that's what I've been told. Yeah. So that gives me a little bit to hopefully get through with this.
Isn't that, because on a secret, I've never graduated from Johnson C. Smith University. I'm literally 3 credits short. I would love to be able to get exactly. Everybody laughed about that. I am 3 credits short. I just felt like, why at this point I'm literally working in journalism? I don't even need this senior year. I said that. Nobody in my family agreed with that.
It's taking a while to get my mom on board.
Yeah, nobody agree with that. But I would love to go back to JCSU and build up a building and be like, yo, here, go to school. I didn't, but hey, you know what I'm saying? It might work for you. It might work for you.
Yeah,
that's what's up, man. But I'm definitely proud of what you're doing. You're like I said, you're carving out a great niche, especially here in Georgia. Do you foresee Georgia growing well, it has to, when it comes to CBD and hemp,
100%. So I not so much actively. I try to when I can, but I can't use the word actively. But Tay, she actively goes to the meetings down at the Capitol building about the cannabis laws and where we're pushing to. And hopefully by 2020, we're theoretically going to have some sort of pilot program.
Yeah.
That's been like the mumbo jumbo. I'm getting ready for that. I got seeds stored. I have a farm.
I like
north. I'm trying to keep I'm definitely ready to plant when that becomes 100% legal.
Are we going to see you, dive into the
THC?
Yeah.
I mean, so realistically, there's two ways of doing it. Yeah. Either you grow high quality indoor and you make it the cream of the crop and you charge a lot because it's worth that much and it's full organic and it's beautiful, or you do a lot of outdoor, you cut it down and you extract it, and at that point it doesn't matter how good or bad it grew as long as you purify the final extraction down correctly. So I would love, as of right now with the CBD and hemp and the way my farm is set up, we're definitely doing a lot of outdoor in that realm. We are also trying to set up to be doing a small amount, very, very small amount of CBD indoor. And then we will also be moving into small amounts of THC indoor. I kind of want to, I have one of the intricate members of our group is actually a horticulture major. He's also was in the military and he fell down a 6-story building, had some back issues. So he's really interested in cannabis and growing it. And he's been a great individual, and I just can't wait to be able to unleash him when it comes to just growing, because he's got a great mind.
Look, I can't believe I had a chance to have you on the show. I'm really honored to have this because I feel like I'm listening to the future. Listening to the future. Serious, like you're watching the future of Georgia. Like you said, by 2020, we should really start seeing a lot of different people from a lot of different areas pulling up with these amazing ideas and actually have the capability to bring them to life. You're one of them.
Legislation is definitely what's holding us up.
Right yeah, really. There's minds like yours sitting behind a wall right now with all these brilliant things that could really be bubbling up, and the only thing that's stopping you is there's a lady. Like I was
afraid of going to jail.
Look, I was at the state capitol recently, and it was a conversation about cannabis, and one of the newly elected state representatives mentioned. She had spoke to one of her colleagues who was a Republican. She asked where she was going. She said, I'm going downstairs. We're discussing cannabis. And she said, almost like threw up the sign to her, like, no, like we're not talking about that. That's what I said. I was like, no, we in 2019 and we're really doing this. And I'm sitting here at 140 Walker Street right now with a brilliant mind who has so many things he could use to help actual people.
So many ideas, man.
Yeah, and it's like, and we're saying no to this? Like, I don't get it, man.
Honestly, it's really I definitely agree with you in the sense that it's kind of interesting seeing how some individuals still see cannabis as such a large taboo, and I'm over here walking around literally everywhere holding a THC pen.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Do you feel? Well, I mean, man, I have so many more questions. I'm like, I don't know how else to keep this going. Like right now, I know that a lot of hemp is getting sourced out. Like we having to get it from other places. I mean, you can across sea.
China.
Yeah, a lot of people's getting
stay away from that Chinese
getting it from China. But your products are actually not. Your products are domestic, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of U.S. soil.
Yeah.
So I work with the geneticist Trey Willison. He owns Eugenius, which is a THC company, but he also grows hemp, and I forget what his hemp company is all the time, but he's a really, really brilliant geneticist. He's been very gracious to us. He lets me go to his property, ask 1,000,001 questions, lets me screw up some of his buds and help cut stuff down and move things around. Yeah. And then he helps me get some good hemp that he's had tested that he knows is going to be good for people that he genuinely cares about. And he does a lot of great work. He's currently breeding a lot of amazing CBD strains and CBD THC strains that hopefully get some good notoriety because he deserves it and he works really hard.
Yeah. And
again, he's brilliant. He is he's amazing. Like he's all like the way that I view Serge Lavoie and how he guided me through my initial algae research, and I view it Pete Ludovic and Dr. Kubanek. I look at Trey. He's one of the 4 individuals that in this like holistic medicine, science, learning have really been able to guide me through it.
Bro, that's amazing, man. I'm very proud of what you're doing. when it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for when it comes to TheraSolv? And I know it's very important for you to make sure that this gets in the hands of the right people as far as your products when it comes to medicinal usage. But what do you want to be remembered for the most, or what do you want the company to be remembered for the most when it's all said and done?
So realistically, I would love for us to never have a single recall. On everything we make is always perfect and even above the standards that the government or somebody else sets for us. So I always want to meet's not good enough. I always want to exceed those standards. So I always want to be able to say that we have stuff that exceeds this criteria for whatever it is in terms of cleanliness and purity and effectiveness. And at the same time, I want to be highly affordable. We actually, before my current prices were set, we were charging about a third of what we are now, retail-wise, and nobody would buy us. Everyone thought that we were just snake oil, essentially.
Yeah, cheap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But definitely with the way cannabis prices are dropping everywhere, both in metric and in the illegal market, there's definitely going to be some price drops in the future, and I think that's going to be a positive thing when it comes to a consumer who needs this kind of stuff in order to survive. I know multiple individuals who had literally death sentences from doctors less than 2 years ago and are now working 40 plus hours a week running around helping me. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming through today. You're definitely the new look of stoners. You know what I mean? Like you're definitely not Shaggy. You know what I mean? Like
I still am. Don't worry. I had to find a good shirt today.
Though I am nervous. When you told me about the work you were doing, I was like, I pictured Dave Chappelle running around and just trying to find bales of weed and shit, like in half baked. Like I pictured that in my mind. Like, do you have a plug up in there and somebody's running up in there just taking all the weed and running out? Like I'm rich,
a big dog, man. And I don't keep everything in one place.
Man, look, Franz, appreciate you coming through tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And that's Cash Color Cannabis, a high level of conversation. Bro, that was good.